Hi everyone, welcome back to my masterclass series. This is the second part of 5 where we are talking about cosplay armor. This is Vampy and I am so excited to share with you all of the materials that I like to use for my various cosplay armor projects. So you can take some advice from me or you don't have to. I do want to go over the pricing for everything and also the various tools and mechanics that go into manipulating certain materials. But first and foremost, I would like to show you guys what materials that I love the most. So let's get to it. The first material that we're going to be talking about is foam, one of my favorite materials and also most cost effective in my opinion. I think that foam is readily available in different stores all around the world, and you can get them in various sizes, shapes, and thicknesses. I definitely want to show you guys some of the ones I like to use and also recommend some widths that I use for all my projects. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to switch the camera really quick and show you some of the sheets that I like to use all the time. All right. So let's get cozy while we talk about foam. All right. So you've probably seen foam in sheets like this at Michael's, Joann's, if you're in America, but of course in various countries, they also come in rolls, which I love. But you know what? This is really, really easy to try out. If you never used foam before, they come in these sheets. And this one is in 6 millimeters, one of my favorite sizes and thicknesses. And this is very dense. A lot of times when people buy foam, they don't also realize it could be used with heat, which we'll talk about later. But this is one of my favorite materials. I've been using foam for about over 10 years now, and you can make so many things with just this material alone. They also come in sizes like this, a little bit larger. If you're just buying sheets, this is 3 millimeters. This is also another thickness that I like to use, pretty much taking over my camera here. And they're all very malleable to the touch. This is obviously a little bit more dense because it's 6 millimeter. But I do like to use 3 millimeter if I'm doing something like feathers, and I also want to Dremel into the foam. It creates a lot of dimension. And if I'm trying to layer my foam. So I like to generally use a 3 millimeter foam on top of a 6 if I'm doing multi-dimension to my armor sets or if I'm doing detail work. And I'm going to switch the camera right now again. Surprise! And I do have a roll of foam that I use often. Obviously, you can see it's well loved. And you can buy this as well if you're trying to also make a really big armor project. I would highly recommend getting them in rolls because number one, it's more cost effective. And also you don't always have to glue the pieces together because this is a really like a long sheet in general. So you can make any size. Like if you're doing a shield, for example, you want to get a roll. Most preferably because of the fact that you don't always have to glue pieces together. But if you can't get a hold of a roll, I can say that you can just glue the sheets together and that should be fine. But this one is about 8 millimeters thick. It's very, very dense. And I really love it because these are usually, great for shields, like I said, helmets. If you're working on anything that needs to be more dense, like guards, shin guards, and things like that, wrist guards, I highly recommend 6 to 8 millimeter foam for those projects because it will withstand a lot of a beating. And also it just looks really good. But you can also use 2 millimeter foam. You don't have to always use a thicker foam for any kind of armor set because I've seen a lot of really good armor from Asia that only uses 2 millimeter foam. It really depends on your project. But here we go back to the kit cam. So yeah, as you can see, foam is easy to bend, and it's actually not too expensive for each sheet. This one and this one, they usually go for 99 cents each. If you get a coupon, I highly recommend using them. Coupons, they can, if works in conjunction with buying materials all the time at certain stores, you can save, 40% on one sheet, and you can get a bunch of sheets in bulk. If you have a big project coming up and you need to save some money, I highly recommend using coupons for any foam if possible, because you're going to use a lot of this for armor. But before you start any armor project, I highly recommend getting any kind of paper. This paper I've been recommending for years, and it is this roll from IKEA. A lot of people always ask me, like, paper is really expensive to do drafting. I totally agree with that, and a lot of people use newspaper for a lot of their drafting. The thing is, I've used newspaper before, and it works great. It's just really, really hard to tell your line sometimes. So I highly recommend getting a huge roll like this from IKEA. This costs about $4.99. This is in the kids section, and I've been using this for a very, very long time. It's still not gone. I've created like 3 costumes a month at least for a very long time, and I still have a lot of paper left. This is usually for painting for children, but you know what? It's always good to have an open mind about any materials that you're using, because if you can save some money and get a really good result from it, I say go for it. And just remember, when you're using foam, you can obviously use any thickness. So if I'm recommending a 6mm foam or 8mm foam, you don't have to use it. It really depends on your comfort level, because sometimes I've heard people, they do not like using a 6mm foam for their wrists or their neck, because it can be limiting with how you move your body and things like that, or your joints. So totally understandable. Those are just some things that I like to use for my costumes, especially helmets. All right, so the next material that I would like to talk about is one of my favorites. It is corrugated plastics. So if you are, a Gundam cosplayer, or if you are a mecha cosplayer and you are into geometric shapes, and you want to do minimal work for painting, highly, highly, highly recommend corrugated plastics or sintra. And if you're curious about what that is, you can easily see right here what it looks like. Sintra is also known as signboard, and these are corrugated plastic sheets. Let me zoom in on this. And I buy this actually on Amazon, and I don't know if that can focus, but corrugated plastic has these little vents in them. Oh, that's better. They have these little vents in them, and they're really great for, making anything that needs to be more flat. So I would say in general, corrugated plastic's really good for layering, especially if you're making a Gundam, like shield or something. I love using corrugated plastics and sintra. I made a Gundam costume out of all sintra before, and sintra can actually be manipulated by heat, which I'll show you guys in another video, but I really love corrugated plastics, and they look great. One really cool thing, a fact about corrugated plastics, is that you do not have to use so much, prep for corrugated plastics or sintra. You can just paint on top or add vinyl on top. And I will show you guys exactly how I do that in the third video. But I did want to tell you guys that this is one of my favorite materials, because of the fact that I don't have to prep it as much. And as you can see, these have ridges here. So it looks actually really cool because this adds another edge of dimension for your mecha builds. And I think that looks really cool. But if you don't want these ridges in them, you can just get a flat signboard sheet of Sintra and, work with that. And these sheets, I can actually tell you a really good secret that I've been doing for many years. So I found out a hack that I use all the time for getting a really good price on Sintra. So I go to sign shops and I walk in there, obviously, and say, well, do you have any extra sheets that are like uneven that you're not using? And many times they have a lot of scrap all over their store. And they're like, you want to buy this? And I always say, yes, I want to buy all of everything that you have. And they usually get rid of that material, that Sintra or corrugated plastic, by the end of the month or year. And they just toss it. A lot of times they just toss it in the trash. So for me, one of my hacks is that I always ask, can I buy those scraps from you? And they always, generally 95% of the time, they say yes, because they're going to throw it away anyway. And that's how I save a lot of money for my Gundam builds or my mecha builds. So if you're interested in making a robot costume or a mecha cosplay, go that route. You will save so much money. And I don't really tell people that, but I mean, this is why we're making these videos. I want to help you guys save money because I think it's very important, especially nowadays, to be good with your cosplay, wallet, because you might want to make more. But yeah, corrugated plastics, Sintra, are definitely one of the highlights of armor making for me. Because I don't have to treat it as much. What I mean by treat it is I don't have to add glues on top or plasti dip and things like that on top of the materials because they're already ready to be painted. So it really skips a whole step for me. Like I said, in the next video that you'll be seeing, I'll show you guys how I do that. And last but not least, my third favorite material, it does cost quite a bit of money. I do have to warn you guys because a lot of times when people see the price tag, they're like, whoa, that's really expensive, but there's a reason why. So my third favorite material is Worbla. I don't use Worbla that often. I really love it though, but I luckily got Worbla for really cheap. I used a coupon at Joann's. It was originally $80, I think $88 for a roll. I know it's quite expensive. $88 for a roll. This is a jumbo roll. And let me read what this is. This is a thermoplastic made for your costume and crafting needs. Just heat it to shape and set to cool. And this is literally the most malleable material, and you can make anything out of this. I do have to say, in comparison to foam, it is heavier, but it can withstand a lot as long as you're not in a place that is really hot, depending on how you treat the Worbla afterwards. Because a lot of times I've heard stories about Worbla melting since it's a thermoplastic at the convention. And it also happened to me in one of my Monster Hunter costumes. So highly recommend making sure that you are in a place that is a little bit cooler. And also if you're not, then treating the Worbla on top to withstand that heat. But yeah, Worbla comes in this color, and this is the updated Worbla, which is black Worbla. I love this stuff. If I had all the money in the world for cosplay, I would just make everything out of black Worbla. Not sponsored, by the way. I just love this stuff because in comparison to the regular Worbla, black Worbla is way more malleable when you're heat treating it. And for me, I really like the base color being black because when I paint it, especially with metallic colors, it pops more. Especially if I'm doing weathering and I want black to be underneath, this is already done for me. So it skips the whole step, right, of the brownish colored one, tan colored one. Like I said, it's a lot smoother and easier to work with. When you open up a Worbla roll, don't fall. It looks like this. There is one side that has the adhesive and also one textured side. I'm going to show you guys like how that all works in the next video, but this is what it looks like. I've used this a lot. The jumbo roll is pretty huge. So I would say if you're making, let's see, half an armor set, like something like Monster Hunter, one roll would be good for, I would say, like half your body, depending on the monster you're making, or even World of Warcraft. It really depends on how detailed it is, but it really depends also like how much you want to spend your money on, because you can do the same things with Worbla with just foam. So keep that in mind too. But for me, if you just want to try it out, they sell samples of Worbla. You can also buy, different varied thicknesses of foam to try out. That's great. And also people like to wrap foam with Worbla. It's a two-step stage that people do for to make it more sturdy, and it's really great. You can use both. But if I had to rate each material on what's best, I really can't say, because I love all three. And a lot of times when I'm making a costume, I use all three different kinds of foam and sintra, corrugated plastic, and Worbla in one costume. So it's just a really fun thing to know, all the materials that you can use. Just have a good time trying out everything. Like I said, they have samples. You don't have to stick with one. You can, mix and match things, and also use different kind of materials for each project. So just know that you don't have to use all foam. Because I think that when I first started cosplaying, I thought I had to use all Worbla to make it the same look. But that's not necessarily the case. You can use Worbla on some parts that, for example, if you need something more sturdy, like the knees, the elbows, the shins, the shoes, I would probably cover the foam with Worbla on top, and I would only do those parts with Worbla, and then the rest of my body, I would probably use just regular foam. So it really can be mix and match the way you want to use these materials. And a lot of times when I was working on shields, Worbla was not necessarily the best material for me. So I use corrugated plastic because it's lightweight, cheap, and can also be cut in various shapes. So like I said, if you want to mix and match different materials, I say do it, go for it. But if I had to sum up this whole class, make sure you buy a roll of paper. If you have IKEA near you, get the children's roll of paper so you can make drafts and everything like that, and it just lasts forever. And they're pretty wide, so you can tape them together, especially if you're trying to do a big shield or something. Yeah, so get this. This is like $5. Foam, like I said, is really cheap. These are 99 cents each, or 150 depending on where you buy it. Please use your coupons for a lot of these, and also stock up on them, because a lot of times they're going to have huge sales, and you can get this for really, really cheap. I once bought 200 sheets just for the heck of it, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to be needing this later, and I've been able to have a good stash for 2 years. So I highly recommend getting a lot of these when they go on sale. It goes as low as 30 cents if you get a good deal. Once again, rolls of foam come out like this. I mean, it's a little bit messy because I use it all the time, but I do recommend 2mm foam or 3, and then 5 or 6 for various parts of your costume. You can go thicker. It really depends on what you want it to look like and how much you're willing to spend. And it really varies in price. It could be $1 to $80 if you want to buy certain rolls. And then last but not least, corrugated plastics, my favorite. for Gundam costumes and shields and all that. So corrugated plastics and sintra are the way if you want to, you know, have fun with materials. But before I go, I do want to recommend what kind of tools to use, because we're going to be talking about in the next video. It is my favorite thing. A lot of people use just a utility blade, but you can never go wrong with X-Acto blades. So I wanted to show you guys this because I don't think a lot of people have this. And I've been using this for about 7 years. This is a godsend. So I cut out foam right here just to make sure that once this is like used up too much, I replace it. I just rip it off and then cut a piece of foam to make it more stable for the blades to stay in there. And I usually have like 5 blades here, so I don't have to stop and, you know, just add another blade. I mean, replace another blade. So I always like to have 5 stocked up. And the coolest thing is this. So I never lose my blades. So if you can find this on Amazon or any, you know, office supply store, get it. Because no one wants, you know, X-Acto blade rolling around, you know, on their table and then maybe cutting themselves. You don't want that to happen. So make sure you have a stable area that you can put your blades in, you know, or you can buy a dish like this one. You don't have to buy, you know, a Dragon Quest one, but I have this one that I like to use on my table. So any of my tools don't have to roll off. So I really, really hope that you can take some of my tips and tricks and also recommendations for armor. And I really want to see what you guys do with it because it's really fun. The next video, we were going to be talking about something really, really cool. So stay tuned.